So let's start. In 1985, something happened aboard the Space Shuttle Discovery. Astronaut Charles Walker saw something through the window, something that left him shaken. Everyone else was asleep. The lights were dimmed. The shuttle drifted silently through the void. Walker was checking systems. Routine checks, nothing unusual. Then he looked outside. The void outside was absolute. No light, no movement, no sound. Just endless blackness. Yet there it was, faint, human-like, staring back at him through the window. He froze. His training kicked in. Checked the instruments, everything read normal. But the presence was still there, floating, watching. Walker blinked, rubbed his eyes, looked again. The shape remained. Arms, a head, a body. He didn't move. He couldn't look away. The figure just hung there in space. After several minutes, it drifted away. Slowly, silently, until it vanished into the blackness. Walker filed a report. NASA said it was debris, light and shadow playing tricks. But Walker never forgot what he saw. And he wasn't the first, not even close. Space is supposed to be empty, cold, silent, dead, a vacuum where nothing should exist. But astronauts keep seeing things that don't fit our models, things that shouldn't be there. In 1965, during the Gemini 4 mission, something strange happened. Astronaut James McDivitt saw an object outside, a cylindrical shape with a bright white arm extending from it. He grabbed his camera, clicked several photos. The object moved with precision. It wasn't tumbling like debris. It maintained orientation, like something controlled. McDivitt described it clearly. NASA examined the photos. They found nothing conclusive. The official explanation? Sunlight on the spacecraft window, internal reflections. But McDivitt insisted. He knew what he saw. The object was real. That same year, during Gemini 7, things got weirder. Astronauts Frank Borman and Jim Lovell reported a bogey, a UFO tracking their capsule. Mission Control asked for details. Borman described a bright object, following them at a constant distance. They watched it for hours. It matched their orbit exactly, never getting closer, never falling behind. Ground Control tried to explain it. Maybe the final stage of their booster. Except the booster was miles away. The object eventually disappeared. No explanation was ever confirmed. Just another mystery. In 1969, Apollo 10 orbited the moon. The crew heard something bizarre. Music. Not radio interference, not equipment malfunction, music. They described it as outer space-type music, strange whistling sounds, whooshing tones that made no sense. The sounds lasted for hours, only stopping when they came back around the moon, when Earth was visible again. The astronauts debated reporting it. They worried people would think they were crazy, but they recorded everything. NASA kept the tapes classified for years. Decades passed before the public heard them. The sounds remain unexplained. In 1972, during Apollo 17, something else happened. Astronaut Eugene Cernan saw a flash, a brilliant light that lit up the entire lunar surface. He described it as impossible, too bright, too sudden, no known source. It lasted only seconds, but the intensity was overwhelming, like a massive explosion without sound. NASA analyzed the data. No meteor impact detected, no solar flare activity. The flash remains a mystery, one of many, one of dozens. 1. Here's where it gets weirder. These aren't isolated incidents. Astronauts from every space program report strange sightings. Soviet cosmonauts saw them too. Bright spheres following their spacecraft, objects that defied physics. In 1981, cosmonaut Vladimir Kovalyonok witnessed something extraordinary. An object appeared outside the Salyut 6 station. It pulsed with light. He watched it transform, from a sphere to an ellipse, then back again. The object moved independently, not affected by gravity or orbital mechanics. It seemed intelligent. Other cosmonauts confirmed similar sightings, strange lights, geometric shapes, things that moved with purpose. But perhaps the strangest case involves shadows. Astronauts working outside their spacecraft report seeing shadows, shadows where there should be none. Space has one light source, the sun. Shadows should be predictable, cast in one direction only. But astronauts describe multiple shadows, shadows moving independently. shadows that don't match any known object. During a 1996 spacewalk, astronaut Story Musgrave saw something, a long, snake-like object, undulating through space. He tried to photograph it, but the object moved too quickly, weaving between structures with precision. Ground control asked for clarification. Musgrave described it again. Long, flexible, alive. The official explanation? Space debris caught in unusual lighting, ice crystals reflecting sunlight. But Musgrave's description was specific. The object moved with intention, like nothing he'd ever seen. Then there are the lights. Dozens of astronauts report mysterious lights, bright flashes that appear and disappear instantly. These aren't stars. They're not satellites. They're something else. The lights appear at random, no pattern, no predictability, just sudden, brilliant flashes. Some astronauts describe them as nearby, close enough to illuminate the spacecraft, too close for comfort. NASA classifies them as cosmic rays, high-energy particles hitting the retina, a natural phenomenon. But many astronauts disagree. The lights they see are external, not internal visual effects. The kicker? Many of these sightings happen during critical moments, during EVAs, during delicate operations, when astronauts are most vulnerable. Let's dig deeper into the truly bizarre cases. In 1991, during STS-48, something incredible was filmed. The shuttle's cameras captured multiple objects moving in formation. The video shows bright dots, moving across the Earth's atmosphere, suddenly changing direction. One object makes a sharp 90-degree turn, at incredible speed, defying orbital mechanics. Something flashes on camera, a beam of light. Then all the objects scatter. They move in different directions simultaneously, like they're evading something. The maneuvers are impossible for known spacecraft. NASA reviewed the footage. They said it was ice particles, debris reacting to thruster firings. But the object's movements don't match thruster timing. The turns are too sharp, too coordinated. The video went public. Thousands analyzed it. The debate continues today. During the same mission, astronauts reported seeing things, objects the cameras didn't capture or couldn't capture. They described spheres of light, appearing and disappearing instantly, moving at speeds that seemed impossible. One astronaut mentioned feeling watched, a presence he couldn't explain, an awareness of something else out there. Space psychology is a real field. Isolation does strange things to the mind, but these astronauts were trained professionals. They knew the difference between stress and reality, between hallucination and observation. Yet they still reported seeing things. In 1998, during a Mir space station mission, something happened. Cosmonaut Gennady Padalka woke up in the middle of the night. Something was outside the window. He described a creature, not mechanical, not debris, organic. It had a form, vaguely humanoid, but wrong, too long, too flexible. The creature appeared to be observing the station, moving around it slowly, inspecting it. Padalka watched for several minutes. He didn't wake his crewmates. He didn't want them to think he was losing it. Eventually, the creature drifted away, disappearing into the void. Padalka filed a classified report. The report remained sealed for years. When it finally surfaced, people were skeptical. A sleep-deprived cosmonaut seeing things. But Padalka stood by his account. He knew what he saw, and he wasn't alone. Other Mir astronauts reported similar experiences, shapes outside windows, movements in peripheral vision. One described a face looking in through the porthole. There for a moment, then gone. These weren't stories shared publicly. Astronauts didn't want to seem unstable. Mental fitness is everything in space. But privately they talked, shared experiences, compared notes. A pattern emerged. Similar sightings across different missions, different crews, different time periods. In 2008, during a spacewalk, astronaut Garrett Reisman experienced something strange. He was working outside the ISS, routine maintenance. Suddenly, he felt something, a presence behind him, strong enough to make him turn. Nothing was there, just the endless black. But the feeling persisted. He described it later, like being watched by something very close, an intelligence observing him. Other astronauts confirmed similar feelings. During EVAs, during solo work modules, a sense of not being alone. Scientists explain this as sensory deprivation, the brain creating stimuli where none exist, a psychological response to extreme isolation. But it happens too consistently. Too many astronauts, too many missions, the same descriptions. Then there are the sounds, not the Apollo 10 music. Different sounds. Tapping, knocking, scratching, coming from the hull of spacecraft with no source. In space, sound can't travel. There's no medium for it. Yet astronauts hear things. The official explanation is thermal expansion, metal contracting and expanding, creating sounds inside the pressurized environment. But astronauts describe the sounds as rhythmic, patterned, almost communicative, not random pops and cracks. One astronaut described hearing footsteps, walking along the outside of the module, heavy, deliberate, impossible, of course, but he heard them, clear as day. The psychological toll of space is real. Months in microgravity, radiation exposure, isolation from Earth. But these aren't random hallucinations. They're specific, detailed, corroborated across missions. In 2015, astronaut Scott Kelly spent a year on the ISS, one of the longest continuous space flights. He reported several strange experiences, lights appearing in his peripheral vision, always at the edge of sight, gone when he looked directly, shadows moving through modules, quick flashes of movement, never solid enough to identify, and the feeling of being watched, constant, oppressive, especially during solo shifts. Kelly underwent extensive psychological evaluation, both during and after the mission. All results came back normal, no signs of psychosis, no hallucinations, just observations he couldn't explain. Other long-duration astronauts report similar things. The longer you're in space, the more you see. It's as if space itself reveals things hidden from brief visits, things that require time to perceive. In 2019, during a routine spacewalk, something was captured on camera. A humanoid figure in the distance, no spacesuit, no tether. The figure appeared to be free-floating, moving with purpose. Then it was gone. NASA reviewed the footage. They determined it was a reflection, light bouncing off the ISS structure. But the reflection moved, changed position relative to the station. That shouldn't happen. The incident was classified as anomalous, not threatening, not urgent, just unexplained. Here's what we know for certain. Hundreds of trained observers, decades of missions, all reporting similar phenomena, objects, lights, presences, things that don't fit our understanding. These aren't ancient myths, they're documented reports from credible trained professionals. Scientists try to explain them. Cosmic rays, space debris, psychological stress, perfectly reasonable explanations. But some cases don't fit. The details are too specific. The observations too consistent. What's really happening out there? Let's talk about what this all means. Our models of space are built on observations, decades of study, careful measurement, mathematical precision. We think we understand the void, empty, predictable, dead, governed by fixed laws. But what if we're wrong? Space is vast beyond comprehension. The observable universe stretches 93 billion light-years, and that's just what we can see. We've explored a fraction of a percent, sent probes to a handful of planets, walked on one moon, thinking we understand all of space. That's like examining one grain of sand, then claiming to understand every beach on Earth. Here's what astronauts are really telling us. Space might not be as empty as we think. There might be phenomena we haven't detected yet. Consider this. We only recently discovered dark matter. It makes up 85% of all matter in the universe. We can't see it, can't touch it, but it's everywhere, influencing everything. We detected it through indirect effects, gravitational anomalies, things that didn't match our models. What else is out there? What else are we missing? What can exist in conditions we can't replicate? The vacuum of space isn't truly empty. It's filled with quantum fluctuations. Virtual particles popping in and out of existence. Energy fields we barely understand. Radiation we're still mapping. Phenomena at scales we can't observe directly. Could there be forms of matter we haven't classified? Structures existing in conditions Earth labs can't simulate? Intelligence adapted to environments we consider hostile. We assume life needs oxygen, water, carbon, conditions like Earth. But that's based on one data point, life as we know it, on one planet. The universe is 13.8 billion years old. It's had plenty of time to evolve things we can't imagine. Could something exist in the vacuum, fed by cosmic radiation instead of sunlight, structured around exotic matter instead of carbon? We don't know. We literally can't know. Our instruments are designed for what we expect. When astronauts report seeing things that don't match our models, maybe they're seeing reality we're not equipped to understand. Consider the humanoid figures. Multiple astronauts, different missions, same basic description. Could they be reflections? Yes. Could they be psychological? Possibly. Could they be something else? We can't rule it out. The objects that move with precision. Change direction impossibly. Operate outside known physics. Are they debris? Maybe some. Are they all debris? Statistically unlikely. Some demonstrate behaviors debris can't explain. The lights that appear and disappear, the sounds with no source, the feelings of being watched, all explainable individually. Cosmic rays, thermal expansion, psychology. But together, the pattern is too consistent, too widespread, too specific. Scientists are taking this seriously now. Not all of them, not publicly, but some. They're reviewing decades of reports, looking for patterns, analyzing data we previously dismissed. In 2021, NASA announced a formal study into unidentified aerial phenomena, both atmospheric and exo-atmospheric. They're examining astronaut reports, satellite imagery, telescope data. The goal isn't to prove aliens. It's to understand what we're actually observing, to expand our models, because here's the truth. Science progresses by finding anomalies, things that don't fit. When observations contradict theory, we don't ignore the observations, we update the theory. Astronauts are our most reliable observers in space, trained to notice details, experienced in the environment. When they consistently report phenomena, we owe it to science to investigate, not dismiss, not explain away. Consider what we thought about Earth's atmosphere. We believed it was static, until we discovered the jet stream. We thought the ionosphere was simple, until we found it's constantly changing. Reacting to forces we're still mapping. Space could be similar, more complex than we model, more dynamic than we assume. The void might not be void. The emptiness might not be empty. Our silence might not mean silence. What if space is teeming with phenomena, operating on scales we don't monitor, in spectrums we don't observe? What if Earth's electromagnetic field blocks things, and only in orbit can we detect them? What if our planet is like a lighthouse, drawing things toward it, things curious about our presence, things we're only now beginning to notice? This isn't science fiction. It's asking scientific questions about observations we can't explain. The astronauts who see these things, they don't claim to know what they are. They just report what they observe. Some are skeptical themselves, they question their own eyes, but they file the reports anyway, because that's what trained observers do. Document everything. Let others analyze. And increasingly, others are analyzing. Universities, research institutes, government agencies, not looking for aliens necessarily, looking for answers to questions we're finally willing to ask. What exists in space that we haven't categorized? What can form in extreme conditions? What might we encounter as we venture farther? These are legitimate scientific questions, worthy of serious investigation, not mockery or dismissal. The universe is stranger than we imagine. Quantum mechanics taught us that. Relativity taught us that. Every time we look deeper, we find reality more bizarre, more counterintuitive. Why would space be different? So when astronauts report seeing things that don't fit our models, maybe we should listen, not with certainty, not with assumption, but with curiosity, because that's how science advances, by paying attention to what doesn't fit, by investigating the unexplained. Maybe it's all explainable. Debris, reflections, psychology. Maybe, or maybe there's more. More to space than we've modeled, more to reality than we've measured. The only way to find out. Keep observing, Keep reporting. Keep investigating. Because the unknown isn't our enemy. It's our frontier, and every frontier hides surprises. What astronauts are seeing might be our first glimpse of a universe far stranger than we ever imagined.